In today's video, I want to talk about getting remarried after divorce, and specifically I want to talk about the pressure that some men feel to get remarried. And I'm talking about the pressure that you might feel from a new partner, from somebody that you get on really, really well with, and you really like, and you can even see spending the rest of your life with, but you don't want to get remarried, right? You've been through a divorce, you've seen how the legal system is stacked against men, and you don't ever want to put yourself in that position again. Why is it that some women are so focused on marriage? And what do you do if you're a guy who's been divorced and you don't want to get remarried again? For those of you who don't know me, I'm Rachael Sloan. I'm a master NLP practitioner and a certified life coach, and I work with men like you, men who have been through a divorce and who are trying to pick up the pieces and not just put them back together to lead a good life like they did before, but to lead a better life, to lead a bigger, a richer, a more full life after divorce. So that's what I help my clients do, and that's what I'm going to try to help you do here today through this video. So I always ask you guys to leave comments, and I really do read them, and I try to respond to as many as I can. And recently, one of you asked me to make a video about this topic. You've been divorced for a while, the divorce was rough, it was nasty, it drug you through the ringer legally, mentally, emotionally, but you picked up the pieces, put yourself back together, you moved forward, and you've been dating someone who's pretty special. And for this particular viewer, the woman that he's dating, they've been together about 2 years, and he wants to spend the rest of his life with her. He can really see it moving forward. So first off, I just want to congratulate you for not only picking yourself up and putting yourself out there, but really taking the risk to connect so deeply on such a genuine and intimate level with a new partner. That risk can be really difficult to take after divorce. But now this viewer is running into a problem. He really loves this woman, but she is really pushing for marriage. And guess what? He doesn't want to get remarried, right? Remarrying after divorce can really feel like a big deal, especially if you have been through a big legal, financial, or custody consequences of your marriage. For a lot of men, getting remarried just isn't something that makes any sense to them, and the legal binding rules of marriage are so separate from the love and commitment that you might feel towards your partner. But what if she doesn't see it that way? For this viewer in particular, she seems almost obsessed with the idea of marriage, even though he's explained his position and the reasons why he doesn't want to get remarried. So what do you do? How do you deal with that if you're a man in this position and you're with somebody that you really like and you really value, but you have no intention of making that a legally binding relationship? So that is the question that I'm going to answer today, and make sure that you do stick around till the end of the video, because I am also going to give you some insights on what to do when you have those red flag feelings in your gut. Because that's one of the things that happened for this guy is he's like, here's this person I really care about, I'm building a relationship with her, but she's insisting, right? And that pushiness is reminding him of some things that his ex-wife used to do, things that she wouldn't bend on, places where her feelings were rigid, and he's getting this gut feeling, maybe this isn't the right relationship for me. So at the end of this video, we're going to talk a little bit about those gut feelings and when you should trust them and listen to them and when you shouldn't. But first, let's answer this question. Why do women want marriage so badly? And for this guy, even though he's laid out all of his very valid reasons for not wanting a marriage, why is it so important? Why is she not listening? Now, I don't know this woman, and I don't have a magic wand to view right into her brain, but I can tell you that marriage is important to women and to many men for a variety of reasons. A lot of it comes down to our societal messaging about people should be married, right? There's an expectation of marriage, and that is changing, but it's still very central to a lot of religious beliefs, a lot of moral beliefs. We have a big love story, and this is especially in our Western cultures, but really throughout the world, we have these societal and cultural love stories that culminate in marriage. So some of it can be as simple as that there's an expectation. The reality is it doesn't really matter why she's got this idea that she needs to be married. If she's pushing it, if she's not letting it go, it means that it's important to her because there's something she's afraid of. Whenever we are holding so tightly to a belief, to a desire for something to happen in our external world, whether that's getting a raise, getting promoted at work, getting married, stopping your divorce from happening in the first place, right? Whenever you're deeply attached to a certain outcome, it's because your brain is afraid of what will happen if you don't get it. And so my advice for this viewer and for anyone else who is in this position of feeling pressure to remarry after divorce, what I would tell you is that instead of arguing, instead of laying out all of your reasons for why you don't want to get remarried, you have to go underneath those rational arguments and talk to the fear. You are not having a debate with a woman who is sitting there calm and rational, even though she might look that on the outside. This is not a conversation about whether you want cornflakes or eggs for breakfast, right? You can't lay out a rational argument and convince her over to her side if there's a strong underlying emotion. When people are emotional, and especially when the nervous system is activated into any kind of fight or flight response, reason doesn't work. And now she might look calm on the outside. She might be having good, strong conversations with you. You might feel like she's hearing you, but if she's not wavering, if she's not able to really see and understand your perspective, it's because on some level her nervous system is activated and she is afraid. When people are afraid, we cannot access the full thinking, rational power of our brains. So, the fact that she's holding on to this means that she's afraid. And I'm guessing that she's afraid of being hurt, that she's afraid of being alone, that she's afraid of not being loved. Now, again, I don't know her, but what I need you to do is to find out, what is her fear? Because until you understand why it's so important for her to be married, you are not going to be able to communicate with her in a way that helps her understand why it's so important for you to not be married. So there's a level of inequality that happens in these kinds of conversations, right? And this is the center of most relationship problems. You've got two people who are trying to communicate with one another, and neither one is seeing or understanding the other person. And so when I come into these situations as a coach, what I try to help my clients understand is that if you want the other person to be able to see and understand you, you first have to give them that gift. And that makes people upset, because why am I the one? Right? Why am I the one who always has to do all the work? Why am I the one who has to make her feel comfortable so that she can see and understand me? And the answer is you don't have to. It's your choice. You can choose to stay where you are, insisting that she see and understand you, and ignoring the fact that her nervous system is all charged up. Or you can recognize that her nervous system is activated and yours is also. And stop treating this like a rational discussion or an argument that you could win through logic, and start instead dealing with yourself and with her as the emotional, activated animals that you are. You've got two nervous systems that are having some degree, it might be subtle, of a fight or flight response. And until you deal with that for yourself and help her deal with it, there is no rational conversation. So what does that look like? Well, before you can get to her underlying fears, you've got to sit with yours, because you're probably noticing, and this viewer did report that he's starting to get frustrated, right? He's starting to get mad. She's not understanding me. She doesn't care about me, right? And he's even starting to notice that some of this kind of feels like what it felt like with my ex-wife. As all of that happens, he's getting defensive. Right? He's going to want to fight back. He's going to raise his voice. His arguments are going to get stronger, or he's going to withdraw and pull away and decide it's not worth it, right? This person doesn't actually care about me. This relationship isn't safe. So the first thing you need to do is check that response in yourself. You need to recognize, wow, my nervous system is getting activated. I'm stepping in to a fight or flight state. I'm feeling defensive. I'm feeling vulnerable or frightened, right? You need to take a moment to step out and calm yourself. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. You can do that with breathing exercises, with actual exercise. But the most fundamental and effective way to do it is to remind yourself that you are here now in this present moment and you are safe. Because that is the only thing that's going to help your nervous system take a step back and say, okay, I'm all right. Yes, she doesn't agree with me. Sure, she does not see me or understand me right now, and I'm okay. Look at me. Look how resilient I am. Look at what I've already been through. I can handle this too. Once you get your nervous system a little bit settled, then it's your job to talk to her fear and not to her argument, not to her logic. So regardless of what she's saying about getting married, she's putting the pressure on it. Once you set aside your own feelings of being triggered by that, you have to become the detective. What is she afraid of? And you can ask that question. A more effective and subtle way of asking it is to simply ask her, why is marriage so important to her? What would be different if you were married? And when I say what would be different, I mean what would be different in her internal experience? What would she get to see or hear or feel on the inside if you were married? And you can ask her that question. Being married, what does that mean for you? What would that feel like? What would you believe about yourself, about me, about our relationship if we were married that you don't believe right now? If you can start to ask those questions with genuine curiosity, after all, this is a person that you love, right? This is a person that you told me you want to spend the rest of your life with. If you want to have a meaningful relationship with any other person, it starts with curiosity about their internal experience. Because when she says, marry me, you have a whole set of internal experiences around marriage. A lot of them are connected to your divorce, to the legal complications, to the financial complications, maybe to custody battles. When she says the word marry me, what you feel on the inside, there's a specific set of physical sensations and emotions. There's images that you see in your mind's eye. There's words and thoughts that come up. You have an entire internal experience of what marriage is, and you don't want it. Her internal experience is different. What marriage represents, what it means for her, is different than what it means for you. For you, it means danger. It means pain and betrayal and abandonment and frustration and injustice. Right? That's what marriage feels like to you. That's what it looks like and smells like and sounds like. But what does it mean for her? For her, marriage might represent safety. It might represent love, commitment, security, happiness, peace, calm. Right? What you're having an argument about is not marriage itself. It's about what you both believe marriage represents. And that's what we want to get to the root to in this conversation with her is, what is it that she actually wants? What is the internal experience she wants to have that she believes she would get if she were married? And that's going to give you insights into what she really wants from you. Because what she wants is less about the paperwork and more about the love, the comfort, the security, and the certainty that you care about her and that you want to be with her. If you can get curious, if you can ask these questions, a couple of things are going to happen. First, you are going to hear and understand her. When you start asking her what marriage would feel like, what it would look like, what it would provide for her that she doesn't have right now or doesn't feel like she can access, she is going to see that you care, that you're interested in her internal experience, and that you're trying to understand her. When we start to feel understood, the nervous system calms down. We feel safer. That fight or flight response starts to drop. She's going to be less defensive. She's going to be less insistent. And the more that she feels safe and understood, the more that she sees that you care and are trying to understand what she needs and why, the easier it's going to be for her to reciprocate. If you can see and hear and hold space for her internal experience, for her fears, for her desires, that is going to make it so much easier for her to do the same for you. She's going to feel seen, she's going to feel calm, she's going to feel understood, and she's going to want to understand you. That is how the human nervous system works. When we feel confronted and attacked, we get defensive and we attack back. When we feel understood and seen and loved, we want to see and understand and love. If you are going to have a relationship with this woman, if you are going to share your life with her, this is not going to be the only issue that comes up. There are going to be so many areas of your life where you have different internal experiences. But if you get to the root, I think you're going to find that you both want the same thing. Okay, for you, marriage represents all of these awful, difficult, painful things. For her, it represents something very different. But I'm guessing that what it ultimately represents for her is the same thing you want for yourself. You want love. You want security. You want confidence of a committed relationship. You don't want to be alone. You don't want to be hurt. You don't want to be betrayed. You don't want to be abandoned. The very reasons that you don't want to remarry are probably the very same reasons that she does. And it's not actually an issue of marriage. It's about finding that common ground between the two of you where you can recognize that you want the same things and take the risk of trusting one another to try to give them to each other, to try to create them together in your life as partners. Now, it's possible that she might not be ready or interested in this kind of conversation. Sometimes you'll try to feel into someone's internal experience and their guard is going to be too strong. No, I just need to be married. If you're serious about this, you'll marry me. It's possible that she's not ready or able to trust you enough to talk about what she's really afraid of or what she really wants or needs. It's also possible that she's never thought about it in those terms, that she's just taken it for granted that marriage is what you do, and has never really thought about what it represents for her. So these might not be easy questions for her to answer, and she also might not be ready, especially if the two of you have been combative over this for a while and it's a real hot button issue for her. And in that case, what you can do is help make her feel safe. Continue to see, continue to try to understand, continue to gently ask and seek what's underneath. It's also true that sometimes the people that we care about, the people that we love, aren't in the same place on their inner journey as we are. And they aren't ready or willing to explore these deeper questions, to look at the underlying needs. They want to stay on that surface where it feels a little bit safer. And that's okay, they're allowed to. They don't have to question what marriage represents to them or what they want or need or why. But then you have a choice. What kind of relationship do you want for yourself right now? And is this the partner that you want for yourself? And these questions can be difficult, right? Because she might open up. She might decide to meet you there on this deeper exploration, or she might not. Ultimately, you get to choose. What experience do you want to have? Do you want to have the experience of loving this person, of growing in this relationship together, even if you don't see eye to eye, even if you can't communicate about some of these deeper feelings? Or is that not the experience you want to have? Do you want to love this person and choose to be in a different relationship? All right, so we covered a lot of information there. And in just a moment, I also want to address these gut feelings and those responses. When do you trust them? When should you not trust them? But first, let's just recap what we're talking about here today. So we're talking about remarrying after divorce, and especially the pressure that some women put on men to get married, even after they've been through this hellacious experience, legally, financially, custody, emotionally, all of it. What do you do? How do you deal with that? And why is it so important to women to get married? Right? And I say to women, it's not important to all women. I can tell you that from experience, but that's been this particular viewer's experience. It's like, wow, it seems like such a big deal to women. Why? So the reason it's a big deal is not about marriage itself. It's about what marriage represents. Maybe it's safety, maybe it's love, maybe it's security, maybe it's certainty. The institution of marriage doesn't matter nearly as much as what it represents. So if you want to find common ground, it's going to be in what you ultimately want and are afraid of, because you both want to be loved. You're both afraid of being unloved, of being alone, of being unwanted or not enough. You both want love and security and a committed partnership, right? And the distinction is that for one of you, marriage represents those things, and for the other, marriage represents the opposite. So in order to have a meaningful dialogue about this, you have to get past that surface level argument about marriage and deal with the fears and the desires underneath. And as you do that, you need to be really cognizant of your nervous system state and also her nervous system state. Because if either of your nervous systems are activated into any degree of fight or flight, those logical conversations and questions aren't going to happen, and you're not going to be able to connect very well. So you need to calm your nervous system, remember that you are safe, and then you help her do the same by being gentle, by being curious, and really seeking to understand, what is it that she's afraid of? What is it that she thinks marriage would provide that she doesn't feel or believe right now? That is the simplest answer to this question, is to just start asking those deeper levels of questions. All right, but what about this gut feeling part, right? This viewer said, well, some of this behavior is reminding me of my ex-wife. The rigidity, the inability to see me or understand where I'm at. I don't like it. It doesn't feel good. Maybe this isn't the right relationship for me. The gut feeling is interesting. It can be a source of great wisdom, and it can also give in to fear and lead us astray. So how do you tell the difference? How do you know if you should follow your gut or not? Gut feelings can come from two places. They can come from fear, or they can come from love. It's really it. It's that simple. If a gut feeling is coming from fear, then that's time to take a step back and question, what are my beliefs about this? What is the story that I'm telling that's making me fearful? If the gut feeling is coming from love, then that is a deep and powerful source of your own wisdom. You have a very healthy part of yourself, even if it's lost under defense mechanisms or the wounds of painful relationships. That healthy self is in there, and it knows what you need, it knows what you want, it knows what's good for you, has a balanced perspective, a balanced memory. You can trust that part, and you know that your gut feelings are coming from that healthy part of yourself if it's coming from a place of love. If that gut feeling is rooted in fear, it is probably a defense mechanism from your survival self, right? From the part of you that's trying to keep you safe. And now sometimes it's good to listen to our survival self. In fact, the survival self usually protects us and has protected us at various points in our life. But those reactions can also become automatic, default, the way that you respond to any apparent threat. You can get that gut feeling and you react without thinking based on what that survival self has learned. So if you have a gut feeling and you feel afraid, you want to stop and really analyze, what am I afraid of? What is this response? And you want to just make sure that you're making an intentional choice, that you're responding to a situation instead of reacting automatically. So in this case, this woman is doing things that remind this viewer of his ex-wife, and his gut is saying, red flag, maybe this is a toxic relationship. Should he listen to that gut feeling or not? What I would encourage him to do if he were my client would be first to sense into the feeling. How does he know his gut is telling him that? Where does he feel it? What internal experience is linked to it? What does he see and hear and feel on the inside in response to that visceral gut feeling reaction? Can he identify, is it coming from fear? Is it coming from love? In this case, it's probably coming from a fear of being hurt again. When you notice that you're having a gut reaction that is linked to fear, one of the things that you want to do is stop and see if that fear is clouding your vision of what's happening, because it often can. The survival self, right, this part of your brain that learns to protect you, says, oh, whoa, this looks familiar, I've seen this before, and it assumes it knows what's going to happen next based on your past experience. And it's great that brains do this, right? This is why we don't burn ourselves all the time or get injured in so many parts of our life. But in relationships, it can lead you astray. Oh yeah, I've seen this behavior before, something that looked like this. This is how it's going to turn out. If you operate from that assumption, you'll find yourself withdrawing, pulling away, and maybe even sabotaging that relationship. One of the things that you won't do is get deeply curious about what your partner's internal experience is. And it's in that deep understanding of what your partner is experiencing that your actual answer lies. Is this the right relationship for me, or is it not? You can't know that based on her outward actions, based on her defense mechanisms, if you haven't looked underneath, if you haven't touched her fear, if you haven't asked about her desires, if you haven't even seen if she's willing to talk about those things. So that's where these fear-based gut reactions can kind of doom you to stepping out, to sabotaging a relationship before you even know if it's a good idea. Yes, she might respond in ways very similar to how your ex-wife did. She might not. Right? This situation could actually be entirely different. So if you can set aside that fear for a moment and go back to what I talked about earlier in this video, be curious. Who is she? What does she need? What is she afraid of? Is there common ground there? And is she in a place where she's ready and able to talk about that with you in the way that you want? Once you've probed that, now you can tune into your gut from a place of love. If you have love for yourself and love for this partner, then choose, what do I want? Is this the relationship I want for myself at this time in my life, or is it not? And you can make that choice out of love for yourself and love for your partner. Loving her doesn't mean you have to be with her. That is a topic for another video, but that is a huge part of the love story myth of our society. You can love her and love yourself and decide not to be together. that's an option that is always available to you. And when you operate from that place of love, it's just a lot less complicated. If you do leave the relationship, you have a lot less regret, anger, frustration, recrimination, vengeance. Like, you can set all of that aside and just say, you know what? I love her as a human, and she's not the person I want a relationship with right now. And love yourself and move forward from that place. So check your gut reaction. If it's coming from a place of fear, you to just tap the brakes, tune in. What is it that I'm not doing? How is this maybe stopping me from being deeply curious to see if this is the relationship I want to choose right now? Once you set that aside, go back and be curious, ask the questions, find out her desires, find out her fears, and see if this really is a compatible relationship for both of you. And then decide how to move forward from that more informed place. If you're having trouble calming your own nervous system or figuring out how to communicate these things in a way that is natural and healthy and helpful, please go ahead and reach out to me. You can book a free consultation with me either by clicking this link or by emailing me directly at Rachael@rachelsloancoaching.com.